did you observe others, or were there other aspects that kind of made you decide this is what I'm going to do to outperform the other people on the team?
Well, I'm 42 years of age as of this recording. So anyone want to backdate that? That means in that age period, we're talking the mid 90s. So there was TV and there were magazines and there were books, but there was no, I mean, the internet existed, but it was nothing like what we have now. And it wasn't, there weren't people putting information on the internet about, hey, here's how you do this and this. That didn't start till around the turn of the century, around 2000 moving on. That's when you got bloggers and all of that stuff. And I jumped into that pretty soon. So for me, when it came to basketball, I was 100% self-taught. And it was just my ability to look at another person doing something. And even though I couldn't perfectly do it, of course, just by watching them, I could see what they did. And then the next day I could come to the park by myself when there was nobody watching and no one waiting for me to do it right. I could just practice on my own. So the good thing about being able to practice by yourself is that you can make mistakes. You can try things, you can mess up, and there's nobody watching you. There's nobody waiting on you. There's no clock. And you can just basically use it as a sandbox, kind of, so to speak, to just practice. And that's all I did. And I realized pretty quickly there were a few things that I needed to master. I knew the most important things I needed to master was, number one, I needed to be able to make a layup with both hands. So with the right hand and with the left hand, make a layup. And then I needed to be able to dribble the basketball. Those are the two things I knew I needed to master. And that's what I practiced. I spent a lot of time just practicing dribbling and making a layup. And then since I was tall, and a lot of people would say, well, you're that tall, you should be able to dunk. Then I started trying to work on how to dunk the basketball. So those are really the first three skills I tried to master. And then, of course, you get the shooting, and then you start combining all this stuff, dribbling into a layup, dribbling into a dunk, dribbling into a shot. And actually, basketball is not that complicated of a sport. There's only a few things you can do. It's just the combinations of putting them together is what makes it look more fancy than it actually is. But as I got older and I was able to articulate and explain this stuff, I started, I'm sure we'll get to this, I started explaining it to other players once I understood the game. So the biggest thing for me was just having that empty space where nobody cared if you messed up. Nobody actually knew that I was even doing it because nobody was paying attention. I got to use that as my breeding ground for my development in my game. And it was just the willingness to show up consistently, my ability to just look at somebody on Tuesday night do something and say, that's interesting what he just did. I can't do that.